Right, Beth, your turn next. How do you feel about having questions during or after your talk?
I prefer to have them after so that I can get all of my points across before I start having people talk to me back.
Okay, good. Okay, folks, you're going to hold your horses until she's finished. Okay.
Well, I'm here to talk about basically the female portrayal in books and films. So I was going to start off by talking about weak female characters in books, because characters such as Bella Swan out of Twilight and other romance sort of books like that, they're always like very weak characters. All they want is just a boy. The whole book is based on the fact that they want a boyfriend. And then in Twilight, when Edward leaves Bella for whatever reason, she becomes really depressed, like her life depended on him and only him, and then becomes suicidal over it because she doesn't want to live without this one boy when she's only 17. She has her whole life ahead of her, and it's just silly that she thinks that her whole life is finished now because he's left her. Compared to that, in newer books such as Harry Potter and even newer Hunger Games, there's characters such as Hermione Granger, who is a very strong female character. She is a really good student in school. She listens. But at the same time as her being a clever girl, she's not like untouchable by boys. She's not like one of those characters where she daren't talk to boys or be involved with them. She just isn't as interested as some of the other characters in books. She has Victor Crumb and Ron Weasley, and she's fine with that, and she doesn't feel the need to be around boys all the time, even though she is interested in them. And then there's also Katniss, who is very strong with a bow. She's a very strong, not just physically but emotionally, after everything that she's been through in the book. And she's just a really well-made, rounded character. And she shows when she does show feelings, she shows them really realistically to how people would show feelings. When Rue dies in the battlefield, if you'd call it that, she takes time to remorse over Rue's death. She doesn't, in most movies and books, they just show death as something that you get over in a matter of seconds. And whereas Katniss takes time to have remorse and grieve over the fact that her friend has died, even though she only knew her for a while, which is really realistic to how people deal with death in real life. But when the books of Hunger Games were turned into films, there seemed to be a lot more interest, not in the fact that Katniss is a very strong woman, more in the fact that she has two boys that she could pick from, Peter or Gale, and all of the merchandise nearly is based on that fact. She's an independent woman, but yet they want her to choose between these two people that she's not really that interested in. She was more focused on the politics of her world at that time. She's not interested in the fact that there's two boys that really like her. She just wants to get on with what she's doing. And the media don't seem to want to focus on that because they think that by focusing on the love life of her, that they'll get more money out of it. And it's completely wrong that society should only focus on that they should just focus on the love factor of every single story. Which leads on to animated stories, Disney films, etc., which are mostly based on love stories and fantasy stories. And as time has gone on, the female characters have got a lot more independent, starting from like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, where the man is like one of the main roles in the film, to things like Brave, where she's completely cast aside any thoughts of marrying. She doesn't want to marry at all. She just wants to float away with her hair blowing in the wind, firing arrows, as said in the film. And everyone in the film says that that's a wrong idea for her, but she she doesn't listen to them, she just carries on with what she thinks is right. And by the end of the film, she doesn't end up with her boy, she ends up sustaining a relationship with her mom rather than with a man, which is a very powerful love other than a relationship of like platonic relationships rather than romantic ones. And then there's Frozen, which has come out very recently, which shows Elsa and Anna. And Elsa is a very strong character. She just runs away because she doesn't feel like she belongs, she doesn't need anyone. Whereas Anna spends her entire life, or up until that point, aspiring to want to marry, and that's her whole character until near the end of the film. All her character is based on is the fact that she's a little bit awkward and she wants to get married. That's all she's bothered about. When the gates open, she isn't bothered about meeting people, learning their stories. She wants to find someone to marry, which is a completely wrong idea, and girls should not be taught that all their lives should be spent wanting to find someone to marry. I think that's about...
Okay, I've got some questions, yeah. Let's start in the front row.
Why do you think there's such a difference between Anna and Elsa in Frozen?
I think probably because Elsa has been cast aside at a young age because of her powers in the film. She hasn't had... she felt the parental love more when she was younger. She knew them longer because she's older. And I think she feels outcasted from everyone else, so she doesn't feel like she needs anyone else because she's so used to being independent. Whereas Anna, she craves human attention because she hasn't had her family with her. She's been outcast from Elsa, she's been outcast from her mum and dad because they died. So she just craves human attention. I think that's why she ends up like she is.
What do you think the different impacts of these portrayals of women in books and films have in society?
Well, I think that it's... I think it makes a really big impact on young girls' lives. They see a film, they think that that's what they should be like. It's the same as magazines, body image, everything. People don't think it gives that much of a impact on people, but everything a young child does has an impact on them. Whether it's watch a film, play a certain game, everything has an impact. So it's going to end up brainwashing them in a way to believing something that shouldn't be believed.